Hey y'all, it's Laura and welcome to day 24 of my Scraptember Video a Day Marathon. This is a collaboration with the Scrappy Sisters and Christy's Beautiful Life with special guests Janet Fritz and Rebecca Lockhart-Dickman. Be sure to check out the lovely group of ladies joining in every single day. Everyone is all linked in the description box below. Now you saw the sketch at the beginning of the video. We are going to be using that today along with the prompt wood veneer for Scraptember, and the photos I have today are something a little bit different. This time around, these photos are not of people. Now, if you follow me, you know I scrap a lot of pictures of my kids, but these photos are actually of cross-stitch designs that my mother created. She is a very detail-oriented person, and so she handles this sort of cross-stitch work very well, and I don't. I enjoy it, but I get lost in the design constantly. But she does really well, and she has posted throughout the pandemic all of these beautiful pieces that she's created, and I thought it would be fun to go ahead and scrap them because during the year 2020 we didn't see my mom terribly much. I tried to kind of steal photos from her social media so that I could scrap those instead. So she was still sort of present in our album even though we didn't actually get to see her. Now, I'm going to go ahead and play with my August stash kit on this one, and it's not quite done yet. Here we are, the end of September. I still haven't finished August, and there's quite a bit of September left too, so I better get on it. But anyway, I do have probably one more layout to do with this kit before I really consider it killed, but I think I've done pretty well with it overall. I think the main tricky bit with this kit has been that I had so many wonderful pattern papers, but I didn't have enough backgrounds. Either that or I used them up very quickly because I found myself with a whole lot of busy backgrounds at the end and having to use a lot of white cardstock, which I like to do a mix of white cardstock backgrounds and pattern paper backgrounds. And when you get to the end of the kit and you're pretty much out of pattern paper backgrounds, it gets a little frustrating. You get a little bored of the white cardstock. So I'm going to play around with this. I had a large scrap that was this beautiful light blue floral, pulled in a piece of navy cardstock just to give it a nice shadowed outline. Makes it look like a shadow box frame, which is what I was going for. And I'm pairing these photos together into a collage of sorts. And the open areas that you see there are going to be filled in with embellishments. Now, I have struggled for several weeks of how to scrap these photos. Because they are not all in the same orientation, it became very tricky very quickly. And I think had they all been in the same orientation, I probably could have created a film strip or done some sort of a grid layout, but having 5 tiny photos and they're all going opposite directions and are different sizes was going to be tricky from the get. There was no avoiding it. It was going to be tricky. And so I just decided to go ahead and collage them together and fill in the gaps as best I can. Now in the sketch, there is the collage of photos to the left. There is a journaling card of sorts, and then a journaling spot down at the bottom. And then the title is on a circular piece on top of the upper journaling card. Well, I played around with that idea, and I do bring in my embellishment tray in just a moment, but I thought I better bring in some wood veneer right now or I'm going to forget. So I went ahead and grabbed these 2 pieces of wood veneer from my stash kit and then started playing with the fussy cut ephemera that was digitally printed, and it was created by Tracy Reed. This is her My Story Matters collection, and really liked this one. I've actually worked through quite a bit of it and was rather impressed with myself. Most of what's left is books and book related things, so I need to just do one more layout that is book related. That's what I've decided. We need to do a book heavy layout to use up those book ephemera pieces. So playing around with the bits and pieces, this layout felt really disjointed until the very end. And once there's one piece that I really think helped it all come together. And when you see it, you're going to be really surprised because it's not something that I normally reach for. It's not an icon I normally use, but for some reason, it just worked. It just fit beautifully in the awkward space. Now, while I'm playing with these bits of ephemera, I do want you to notice that I've pulled out some numbers. These were again part of that My Story Matters ephemera, and I had wanted so badly to get all of these numbers onto a layout. Unfortunately, I had already used the number 3. And so I will have to go dig through my stash to get another number 3, but I do find it in the end. And I love the way this looks, having each of these smaller photos marked with a number and just kind of acknowledging how many beautiful pieces she made over the course of about a year. These are very detailed pieces and they take a very long time to create. So I was incredibly impressed that she got 5 of them done. They range in sizes. I think the smallest one's about 5 by 7, but one of the larger pieces is quite big. It's bigger than an 8 by 10. So she did quite a variety of things. Now, as you can see, it's starting to come together. I'm filling in the gaps as best I can with the pieces that I'm finding. I have this circle piece to represent the circle from the sketch, but it is not my title. It just fit and it needed to get used. Now, a couple of things I could have done differently, but chose not to, was I could have painted the wood veneer a different color, and I did consider it. I actually was considering painting that smaller piece white and thought it would pop quite nicely off of that navy, but in the end I leave it and I'm fine with it. It's fine, but I also think it could have been painted white and that would have worked as well. I've gone ahead and taped and glued everything down off camera, and now I'm bringing in these stickers that was also in my stash kit and just trying to tuck in as many as I can onto this layout, which ends up being 3. But I've been trying to use it up. Here's the moment, guys. I never put people on my layouts. And the reason I don't put people on my layouts is because I think they draw attention away from the photos. But because these people are facing the other way, you're not seeing their faces, it actually did not bother me at all to pop them onto the layout. And then once I put it down, it just so perfectly filled in that space that in my mind was feeling so awkward that I just got really excited and was like, yeah, no, that's exactly where this goes. And it was at that point that I got really excited and just started going for it with the layout because I felt like, okay, it's coming together, that awkward gap was filled, and now I feel much better about it. I'm using up as many of these puppy stickers as possible because, like I said, we're getting to the end of this kit. Bringing in some of the enamel dots as well. These are my scattering pieces. So these are tiny little details that I add at the end of a layout that really helps bring it to life. Having these butterflies spread out from my clusters adds a little bit of movement and a little bit of whimsy, and I really like the way that adds that just a little flair, that little bit of extra something. The enamel dots had a little bit of dimension to my numbers, and then I'm going to bring in a title. Now, I wanted to do something related to stitching or sewing, and so I ended up doing a bit of a pun. Because I have pretty limited space here and decided to go with so. And I'm going to have SO and then SEW. And I don't know why that tickled my fancy when I was making the layout, but it did. And I still like it. I think it's funny. So that is our title and pretty much our layout. We're going to add just a few last minute bits and pieces. I am going to bring in some of those tiny little hearts from that little container there. Those were actually from a washi tape that I strung out onto a piece of cardstock and fussy cut out a whole bunch of teeny teeny little hearts so that I could use them as scattering, the tiny little details around all of the numbers and all of the clusters and all of the flowers. And that little bit of bling makes such a difference on a layout, I find. Now, once I finish with my scattering, I'll move on to my splattering. Scattering and splattering is how I always finish my layouts, and I do 2 levels of splattering. The first is controlled splattering using Nuvo drops, and then I do uncontrolled splattering using Heidi Swap Color Shine, or just any gold ink. Now I am creating some little butterfly trails with my Nuvo drops because I love doing that. It's another way to add a little bit of movement on the page, or the appearance of movement on the page. And then this one will be complete. I really love how this one turned out, even though there were some definite twists and turns along the way. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. This is day 24, going up a little bit late, but until next time, bye y'all.